Okay, guys, I'd like to introduce award-winning musician and songwriter John Depew. He's Kansas-based, and we're gonna have a conversation with him. He's basically gonna talk about his life, his career, his inspirations and influences. He plays the mandolin and acoustic guitar,
Yes.
among some other instruments. So I'd like to introduce you to John Depew.
Well, hi. So basically, we called this a conversation, so I'm just going to throw it out right now that I'm not really here to like present, I'm kind of here to talk with you. So anytime you guys have anything to say or want to ask, why I'm wearing red shoes or how many strings are on an octave mandolin or any of that kind of stuff. Why am I don't know, because these are the shoes that I have with me in the van, and I'm limited to. Yeah, I like them. Thanks for asking. So maybe I'll just start off by playing a couple of songs here, because that's really what I do. This is my job. My job is really not to talk. My job is to play music, and I'll get into a little bit more about that after a minute here. But maybe I'll just start with kind of a new song that I wrote about being out in the wilderness, which is something I like to do a lot. There's a place on the mountain where no one else goes, where the pinions grow close on a razorback ridge, where the wind can't decide which direction to blow, so it swirls and it moans in a high lonesome pitch. There's a place on the mountain where a man can be still, hear the passage of time if he listens close, where trouble and sorrow fit into their place, and this reckless pursuit seems a meaningless waste. And I wonder, I cast far and wide, a poor wayfaring stranger, lost in the valley where the shadows grow tall. In the back of my mind, hear that lonesome call, when just one long breath in the right state of mind put me back on the mountain. Can go in my mind, where I write down my troubles and fold them up tight, leave them under stone at the altar of prayer for whoever is listening. And I wonder, I cast far and wide, a poor wayfaring stranger, lost in the valley where the shadows grow tall. In the back of my mind, hear that lonesome call, when just one long breath in the right state of mind, when just one long breath in the right state of mind, yeah, just one long breath in the right state put me back on the mountain. So I do a lot of writing of songs based on things that I've had to learn hard ways. So that's one. That's a song about learning to shift my attitude, and I'm sure that I'm not the only person here that has to learn that over and over and over and over and over. How many of you guys are interested in music? Are there any people here that are like, yeah, okay, two, a few, cool. All right. So for all the rest of you, I don't really have a whole lot to talk about besides music. Music is kind of my thing. Music's been my thing really ever since I can remember. I grew up in a kind of a musical household. My dad played the mandolin. I didn't bring my mandolin in, but a mandolin is like this. It's not a really common instrument in modern music necessarily, but it's like this, only smaller. It kind of looks like a ukulele, but it's got 8 strings. The strings are tuned in pairs, so it really is like a 4-stringed instrument that is chorusing itself, and it's tuned like a violin. So it's sort of a member of, it's a cousin of the violin. Okay, so it's real small. It's easy for a kid to play. Incidentally, you can fit it in your lap while you're driving a car. Don't ever do that. Okay. But yeah, so I started playing the mandolin when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I've always done that. I've always been interested in music. My dad started me playing, and he taught me how to sing harmony. About that same time, like probably 1st or 2nd grade, I started singing, harmony parts to songs that he knew, and it was just something that I always sort of felt like I was good at, and I think probably that's as much of the reason as anything why I'm now doing it as a job, because there really weren't like a lot of things in life, especially early on, that I felt like I was really good at, but this was one of them, and so I sort of took to it, and I developed the skill, as an instrumentalist over the years, just by kind of being obsessed with music. And when I got into high school, I didn't have a whole lot of friends, and I lived out in the country where you couldn't just walk over to somebody's house and hang out. All my friends lived like miles away, and I didn't have a car, so I stayed home a lot, and I played a lot of music, a lot of music, after school. We had this little kind of recording studio that my dad built in the basement when we got like we had like an old trailer house, and we got a new trailer house when I was in high school, and it was on a basement, and so we built this music room in the basement, and back then there were these kind of brand new technology, was these sort of standalone digital recording machines where you could record, like you can do all this stuff on your phone now, but it was kind of a big deal. Like you could record multiple tracks, so you could like record yourself playing an instrument and then play another instrument and record that on top, and then you could edit those things and make, it was the beginning of like, we have all that stuff now, and like, I can do it on my iPad, but it took sort of significant infrastructure not that long ago, I guess, and but we had one of those things, and so I spent just a huge, like really ridiculous amount of time doing that, when I was younger, and learned a lot about sound and about recording and about playing and arranging songs and all that kind of stuff. So that's I dropped out of college, community college, after a semester because I didn't go to class. Actually, I didn't drop out, they kicked me out. But I can say that I dropped out. It was my choice to not go to class, I guess. So I'm really proud of you guys all for being here who are students. It's sort of hard to do it, I think. So good job. Keep it up. But so after that, I got a job, because that's what you do when you leave school. I got a job washing dishes at a restaurant, or I went back to my old job. I worked there in high school, but I got that job, and then I moved on and got kind of got lucky and got invited to work at a theater in the stage crew, which was not like a real job. Actually, it was like 10 hours a week or something. But from there, I learned how to show movies back when they had 35 millimeter projectors, and you know, I was guilty of my share of, like, you know, when you see the end reel because the projectionist wasn't paying attention, and you know, I did plenty of that. But I learned how to do it, got pretty good at it, and then I went to digital projection, and I got to push play on a DVD player basically and sit there for 3 hours and then close the curtain. But I learned a whole ton of stuff working there. You know, it was a theater that did movies some weekends, but they also did these big live shows. Like we had like the Broadway version of Cats in there one time, and we had Garrison Keillor there. We had like I don't know. We had a bunch of pretty good kind of off-Broadway shows and things like that come through, and I learned a whole lot about sound and lighting and theatrical presentation and that kind of stuff just by working there, like being the guy that carries stuff, you know, but paying attention. And I met a lot of people too in that job. But ultimately then I had kids and I couldn't support them doing that. So I went to work for the Postal Service for several years, carrying mail on a rural route. So I did that for 7 years, and all the way through that, I was always, you know, playing music on the side, and really didn't start like playing a lot of gigs or like traveling for music or anything like that until after COVID. But I was always playing music. I was always, you know, trying to get better and trying to learn stuff and exploring, you know, different things that could be done, right, with music. I think any kind of art, but not even just art. Like, I think a satisfied life for an intelligent person is really dependent upon just being challenged. You know, looking for like life won't necessarily always challenge you in the right ways if you don't look for it. So I think. Yeah, this is weird that I'm getting into like a sermon about challenging yourself. But okay, I'll get back out of it. But I think it's true. You know, I think looking for ways to make yourself grow as an adult. Once there are no adults, really, like people will stop making you grow once you leave here, and you can just stagnate, or you can look for things to get better at, you know, to challenge yourself with. And so I'm grateful to have been sort of intuitively led in that direction. I don't think I could have articulated any of this stuff until right now. But you get in front of a bunch of people and get asked to talk about your life, and all of a sudden this kind of weird stuff comes out. So maybe I should play another song just to get away from this little tirade. That reminds me of a song that I wrote while I was carrying mail. So I'll just play that right now. I think one of the takeaways for me to this, like, I'm not that old. I'm 34. Am I 34? I might be 35. I'm 34. Yeah, the math adds up. I'm 34. So, you know, I hope I have a really long time to live and a lot of hard lessons to learn still. But one of the takeaways, I think, from my life to this point is just like, there are seasons, you know, where you might not really be doing what you want to do with your time. And there's a couple things I'd say about that. One of those things is that it just takes time to build, kind of to build the infrastructure to make changes. And then the other thing is you don't have to be miserable even though you're not doing exactly what you want to do. You can have an attitude adjustment and figure out a way to enjoy it. But anyway, here's a song that may or may not be about any of that. Tell me what's so wrong with singing Jackson Brown, or sitting quiet when the singing does no good. Tell me why you'll paint 100 portraits of 100 perfect strangers when you came to paint the sunset over Tabawash. It's America, and we got bills to pay. We'll keep on showing up and hoping for a better day. Tell me, what's the number I should shoot for in my 401k before I can leave this place and go out on the road? I should be thankful for the good things that I've had, don't I know it? Have I stepped in the same trap as every man I've ever known, though I smelled it from a mile away? Traded hope in dimes and pennies for security, and found it wasn't quite the life that I expected it to be. 'Cause we got bills to pay. We'll keep on showing up and hoping for a better day. And on that day, oh, the list grows ever longer. What I want to do in 20 years of wishes that I've held on to. I hope I'm strong and I live long enough to make it worthwhile. Tell me what's so wrong with singing Jackson Brown, or sitting quiet when the singing does no good. All right, so there's a song. So I did that mail route for about 7 years, and then during COVID, this is sort of where my music stuff kind of starts to get interesting. During COVID, so I had played with this band, local band, kind of a 3-piece rock band, where I was playing electric guitar and a bunch of the material that I put on my first record actually came out of that band. I wrote, as rock music, sort of. I mean, like Americana rock, I guess, not like, heavy metal or anything. But I was playing with this band, and then COVID happened, and we just sort of didn't really know how to proceed through that, obviously. So we stopped rehearsing, and I kept playing at home. I actually played more during that time than I had for a long, long time before that. And I just sort of had this feeling like that's not really what I want to do anymore. I want to go back and kind of explore what I can do with this acoustic music, which was really my background. My roots were in that. And so I made this record of just me singing these songs and playing one instrument, and it was not fancy or anything really. It was just me and an instrument per song, and different instruments, but just trying to kind of strip everything away and just look at the songs. And I put that out in 2021, early 2021. Worked on it through the year in 2020, and then released it just on Bandcamp. I don't know. Do you guys all know what Bandcamp is? Okay, Bandcamp is this platform online where, so there's all these like streaming services on the internet, you know, Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that. All of those you pretty much have to pay a distributor to put your music on those. Okay, and you don't really get, there's like not a realistic revenue stream for most people who are putting music on those. Like I get paid from Spotify, but it's like enough to buy a candy bar once a year. And maybe not even that. Like maybe if I went to the gas station and the clerk was really generous, they were like, okay, I'll take this 34 cents and give you a candy bar, you know. But so Bandcamp is kind of it's another one of those services, but it's a little bit more democratic. It allows, anybody can just get on there and put music up. Like you have to create your own kind of page and your own account, but you can just put your own music up there for free. They don't charge you for it. They take a percentage of download sales, and if I have vinyl records now, and you know if I sell vinyl records on there, they take a percentage of that. But there's no barrier for entry. You don't have to pay them. It's a little bit more artist friendly, I guess, of a platform. And anyway, so I released that first album on there, just on there, and you know it was just a project that I did that I wanted to put up there for my friends to listen to and that kind of stuff. But within a couple of days, there was this guy by the name of Ted Gioia, who wrote, he's written a bunch of books about music, like the history of jazz. He wrote the history of jazz, right? I mean, he's a pretty well-established musicologist. And anyway, he somehow found this album on Bandcamp and gave it some visibility through his social media presence and stuff. And I mean that didn't like I made like $200, you know. It wasn't like life-changing really, but it was life-changing in the sense that I sort of lived in this town that's really not a music town, and I hadn't really ever had an outside person say, you know, that what I was doing was like actually good on some level that I could see as being like seriously legitimate. I don't know, maybe that's my problem, you know, because people had told me that what I was doing was good, but it was always people that I guess I didn't trust or something. But here all of a sudden this guy, you know, from I think he was living in Chicago at the time. He now lives in Austin, but you know, this guy who has this international following, you know, for his musical recommendations and for his critiques of jazz and stuff like that. You know, this guy all of a sudden thought that what I was doing was good enough to share. And it really changed my whole philosophy. I mean, like overnight, you know, all of a sudden I was thinking like, well, you know, if he thinks this is good, then maybe this is actually good. You know, maybe it's actually good, not just like Hutchinson good, whatever that means. I don't know, but I don't know. So then it just sort of changed my philosophy about how seriously to take it, I think. And so it took music for me from, I guess, from a point of like music was a hobby for me, but I didn't really think of it as like an artistic pursuit in the same way that I think of it now. I guess I didn't think that maybe I would ever have like an actual voice that people would listen to, if that makes sense. And then all of a sudden I kind of did, and I had to go, oh crap, you know, like what am I going to say if people are listening? You know, that's really kind of a whole different thing that I didn't plan on. So I started to think about it a lot more in those terms, and so then I came up with this kind of kooky idea to make a record because I wanted a challenge, I came up with this idea to make a record that I would try to play in the studio in one take from beginning to end. So like one unbroken piece of music for like 40 minutes that I would just like try to go in the studio and play and not edit, just put it out. Which turns out to be like impossible. It's really, really hard to do that. But I did arrange an album that way, and I went to the studio with it, and I played it in halves. So like, because I was going to put it on vinyl anyway, and on vinyl, you know, you have to flip the record over halfway through. So it didn't really make sense to make it one piece anyway. I'd have to cut it up digitally. So I split it in halves, and I did. I went in the studio and I set up this circle of instruments around me, and I had arranged this to where I could like sing little pieces of songs a cappella while I like put an instrument down and picked up another one and started into the next song and stuff. So that was kind of like my next like attempt at being artsy fartsy or something. and I think it came out pretty well, but then I put that out sort of expecting, you know, because like that first album had kind of gotten a lot of attention, and I put this second one out like that I did that was like super cool, and at least I thought it was, and it really kind of like flopped. Let's just be honest, like nobody cares that I made. Like, I mean, it's cool, and I've had good feedback from it, but it's not like it didn't change my life at all. You know, it's just like another record, and I think that there's a really good lesson in that for me, but I'm also already kind of on to the next thing. So like I've got 2 records that I'm going to make this winter, one of which is a duo with a bluegrass guy out of Kansas City, and the other one, like I met this just great banjo player at this festival at Winfield. So Winfield, Kansas, there's a bluegrass or kind of folk music festival every year that I go to, and through a network of friends, kind of, I ended up playing with this guy, 2 guys actually, a bass player who lives in New York City, and this other guy, Peter, who lives in Taos, and after the festival, like, so there's these campground jams that go like ridiculously late into the night. So, you know, I got to play with these guys until like 5 a.m. several nights, mornings, days, whatever you call that. And after the festival was over, I went home and I thought, you know, what's really exciting to me in music now is like not this. It's not me playing by myself. It's not me like sitting in my closet trying to get better. That's interesting too. But what's really interesting to me now is like exploring what can be done with other people in a collaborative way, you know. And so I went home and I sent emails to these guys and I said, you know, what would you think about coming to Taos? Peter, the banjo player, owns a studio down there, and I said, you know, what if we booked one show in Taos, and we'd just go for a long weekend and just like practice like crazy and try to make a record as a trio? And they both said yes, which is amazing. Like I couldn't believe it that these guys would agree to do this. But so that's coming up in January. Like, I guess what I'm saying is like I'm trying to keep stuff ahead of myself. That's like the job of being a musician, if anybody's interested, is mostly, well, most of your hours are spent driving. After that, you do a lot of accounting. After that, you know, if you're lucky, you get to play music. And so, I'm trying to keep stuff ahead of myself that's exciting, you know, that keeps me creatively engaged. But, you know, to talk about the business of music, I know he mentioned, you know, kind of wanting to hear about my career, and that seems like a really pretentious word to use for whatever this is that I'm doing. But, I mean, I am a full-time musician. I am now. I have been for most of this year. And I think the way it looks, I can continue to be for the foreseeable future, which is great. Like, I can't imagine a better way for me to live than, I mean, it's weird right now for me to be talking instead of playing music. That's not really what I feel like I'm good at. But here I am, and I'm having fun. It's kind of cool. So I think one of the things that's enabled me to have a career in music, if I'm just going to be really honest about it, well, there's kind of two things. And I was thinking about this on the way here. Like, what am I even going to say to these people about the music business? Because I don't know anything about the music business. I'll just be honest with you. I don't. I know that I like music, and I know I want to play music. And I happen to be married to someone who's good at booking me. And that's worth a whole lot, if you can marry well. But I think it kind of, for me, it comes down to sort of two things. Like, I somehow grew up with a really strong aversion to debt. Okay, so that's one thing. That I think is really important in this line of work. So I came into this experiment with no debt. And I had to work my butt off in my 20s and early 30s to make that happen. And make a lot of really kind of tough decisions about priorities and stuff along the way. But now, I have a lot of flexibility that I think the average person doesn't really have, just because, I don't have a banker that's expecting payments from me on stuff. I still have to pay for the regular things of life, but I think, so anyway, there's that, and then there's also, along with that, I have a really deep-seated aversion to risk. So I spent a lot of time while I was working full-time kind of preparing myself to be able to make this jump. Getting, everything from just sound equipment to, I own like a little kind of tour van thing that we bought, because I knew I didn't want to travel by myself in a Subaru. I wanted to be able to bring my family. I have 3 kids that are back there, and they travel with us almost all the time. If I go play gigs somewhere, they come, and that was just important to me to be able to set us up in a way that we had the infrastructure to try to make that kind of stuff happen. And none of it is the fanciest, nicest stuff that you can have. It's not, but the infrastructure is there, and I think that's really important if you're trying to start a business. I feel like that's something that a lot of people overlook, like having the least amount of risk relative to the reward you can realistically expect, which in the music business is not very much. Let's just be honest. There's not a ton of money, unless you're, Taylor Swift or somebody. I don't think I am. So there's that, and then the other thing that I think kind of set me up well for this is I've always been like a really questions-oriented person. So I was thinking about some like really pivotal questions that, like I had this guy, maybe 10 years ago, who I was spending a lot of time with. He's kind of a hippie, but also a cop. Weird combination, I know, but he was talking. He spent a lot of time talking back then about if anything that you can observe in yourself, like your emotions and your thoughts, all of that stuff. None of that is actually you. If you can observe it, it is you. It makes up whatever it is that is you. The great picture that is John Depew or whoever. But it's not like there's an observer, right, that's doing the observing. So thinking about, for me, that just like really changed how I felt about my own emotions and thoughts and logic and all of that stuff. It's kind of like, well, yeah, I feel upset right now, but if I'm feeling upset, that's a feeling. That's not whatever it is that's doing the observing of that is different than that. So that's kind of a heady thing to get into, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is like there are questions like that. Questions like, I woke up this morning thinking about, like, what is my responsibility as a human when we're looking at what's going on in Israel and Palestine right now? Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. Like, I have no idea. But the question is an important question, and I think the job of a songwriter in the world is to kind of be able to look at those questions and not get too afraid or bogged down with just like sadness, I guess. I don't know. I mean, to be able to try to say something about it. And I don't know what to say about some of those things, but I do think it's kind of my job to try to be able to look at those things and to look at them from different angles and try to see, try to find something that's meaningful, to say, I guess, about it. I don't know that I have anything meaningful to say about some of those things, but sometimes I write songs that sort of after the fact I realize, there is meaningful stuff in there. I just didn't know how to articulate it, but it came out anyway, So I think that's the value of an artist in the world, is like sometimes things come out that you don't even know are coming out until after they've come out, and it's hard to be intentional about that. It's hard to intend to do something that you don't know how to do, but kind of getting up every day and doing it anyway and seeing what happens, that's a valuable thing that, not everybody just logistically has the opportunity to spend the time that it takes to make those, to make songs or to make, everybody can do it on some level, but not everybody can devote their lives to that. So I'm really thankful and blessed, I guess, to be in that position. So I said this was going to be a conversation, but I haven't really behaved that way. Maybe I could open that line a little bit now. Does anybody have anything to say in this conversation?
I have questions.
Okay.
I have two questions.
Okay.
So what style would you consider yourself? Bluegrass or Americana?
Yeah, that's a hard question. I think it's important to understand rules so that you can break them. So I wouldn't call myself bluegrass, although a lot of people would probably. Americana is probably a fair description, I guess. Most people could look at me and just say I'm a singer-songwriter because I sing and write songs. I shy away from that because I think it has a connotation that I don't want to attach to myself. But it's fundamentally, that's what I am.
My second question is, who are some of your musical influences?
Yeah, that's another good one. I have. Let's see. I grew up listening to a lot of like bluegrass gospel. So Doyle Lawson was a huge influence on me early on. Let's see, Doyle Lawson and like Ricky Skaggs and all those kind of people. Okay, that was formative. And then I got into like hardcore and metal in high school. So
Big jump.
yeah, it is a big jump. That's the time when people make. I made a lot of big jumps, a lot of dumb jumps, but that wasn't one of them. I still draw from that education in music. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on in metal that is not ever going to go on in bluegrass. Like, but you can take those tricks and apply them. Like here, I'll play it. I'll play something here just because we're talking about this, and I haven't picked this thing up yet today. So here's what's fundamentally a folk song, but uses a lot of stuff that you would hear in like jazz or metal. I'll just play it. I won't even talk about it. You're welcome. Fledged with the feathers of a neon hope, cedar shaft, obsidian point, and all of the hours you were thinking of me at the tiller in boat. There's half a hair more, and it pulls like the arc of a life well spent. The question that leads me to the mountain again. You bend like the hickory, shoot straight and shoot hard. I'm slower and weaker and missing the target. Would you walk with me up the mountain, top the ridge line, looking at the plains of San Augustine for strong black tea and Molly's chocolate ride? Just listen to the wind and the pines. It's a world of sadness, it's a world of greed, full of abundance, yet still full of need. It's a world of lightning, it's a world of thunder, it's a world of wonder. With all of the sorrow that a man can bear, you stand like a dug fir. You offer your wisdom in the noonday sun. It's a world of wonder. It's a world of wonder. It's a world of It's a world of sadness, it's a world of greed, full of abundance, yet still full of need. It's a world of lightning, it's a world of thunder, it's a world of wonder, and it's a world where the darkness fades into the day, and the sweet muddy smell of the breeze across the lake, and the fishing line connects us to the world down under, where the channel cats are biting. And we sit on the shoreline with coffee in tin cups, talking in low voices while the sun slithers up, and the crescent moon still hangs just above the long horizon, like the universe was waiting for this. It's a world of sadness, it's a world of greed, full of abundance, yet still full of need. It's a world of lightning, it's a world of thunder, it's a world of wonder. Okay, so there's, you're not going to hear, at least none of the bluegrass that I was raised on changes time signatures like multiple times. Yeah, yeah. Say what? It's hard to show that if people haven't already heard it. It is, yeah, it is. It's easier when people get in front of it and do hear it. So, I think a lot of the music business, honestly, is just about getting out and playing gigs and getting in front of people and, trying to be authentic and connecting with people. But it's hard. It's not easy to get that to happen, So that's just a reality. It's hard to sell original stuff.
Do you perform other people's music ever?
Yeah, I do. I try to mix. It's important to me to keep a high percentage of my own stuff, but I play old Bill Monroe songs, and I play, gospel songs here and there if they're kind of something that fits into what I want to say and the sound that I want. I play old country stuff, and so I mix. I would say probably in a live show, probably every like third or fourth song is somebody else's. And everybody, yes.
How old were you when you first picked up a guitar?
So I started playing the mandolin first, and I was about 5 when I started that. And then I think I was probably maybe 8 or 9 when I first started playing guitar. It's hard to play guitar when you're that little because your hands will hardly reach to the 6th string. But
And how old were you when you started feeling comfortable to play for people?
that's like 34. I mean, my dad got me up in front of people a few times as a kid. He would, I don't know, my grandparents had this like Bible study group that we played for a couple times. Like my dad and I would do this kind of duo bluegrass thing back then. It wasn't enough to make me really comfortable, I would say, I feel pretty comfortable now. I guess if I can get up in front of you guys and not even play music and just ramble about whatever for an hour, I guess I would say I'm comfortable now. But it's taken, a long time, a lot of gigs, a lot of...
Still have stage fright.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's not something that you totally get over, but I think, I've gotten definitely... So coming out of COVID, in 2021, I put out that first album of solo stuff, and I went around my county. We just opened it up, and I said, I want to do this for a living, and I know I can't do it unless I'm really comfortable. That's one of the things that... There are several things that I can see that I need to get better at. And performance is one of them. So we just said, I will come play on your front porch for you or not you or anybody that you want to invite for free. Let's pick a date and I'll just do it. And I played like 60 or 70 gigs in my county that way in 2021. All, just outdoor in people's yards, basically.
What state's that in?
In Kansas. In Kansas. So I got a lot more comfortable from that, and then I've just kept playing and getting better, since then. I don't know, I've lost count now how many shows, but I've probably played between 200 and 300 shows probably in the last 3 or 4 years.
Do you ever play the mandolin? I was expecting.
Yeah, I do. I didn't bring it in today.
Mandolin today.
Yeah, I do play the mandolin at almost every show, actually, but I didn't want to carry all 3 things here. I have a banjo, too, in the van, but I knew I was probably not going to have time to play everything. I guess I could have played more music and talked less, but yeah. Oh, this thing? This is an octave mandolin, so it's tuned the same, but it's an octave lower. But it has these pairs of strings just like a mandolin would. It's just tuned down in the guitar range, and all the chord shapes and everything are the same as a mandolin.
Is it custom made for you?
Yeah, this one was, yeah. This came out of a shop in Salida, Colorado. It's the only, well, no, I guess I have 2 custom instruments. One of them is a fretless banjo that doesn't leave my house because I can't play it. Or I can't play it very well. I've only had it for a couple of years, so give me a decade, and I might get it. But and then this one. But yeah, it's a nice one. I like it. Anybody have more questions? Yes.
What's your favorite song to play?
Usually the newest one that I think is good. Which one is that one? Right now, I'll just play it for you. This is one I haven't recorded yet, but it's going to go on that trio record I was talking about with the banjo player and the bass player. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of always working on new stuff. In fact, I sat on somebody's porch in Garden City last night and wrote the bones of a new one. But I don't know if it's a keeper or not yet. It usually takes a few days to know, you know. But yeah, currently I'll say this is probably my favorite one, just because I wrote it recently and it's still kind of fresh. All day on the riverbank, I sit, I wait, I fast. Gold sun emerald catalpa and diamonds hung on spider thread. A wise man takes night of the riches of the world to weigh down his pockets. He carries a lesson from the birds of the sky who claim ownership of nothing. It's the reason they can fly. That's Mary Oliver. All day on the riverbank, I sit, I wait, I cast. No longer holding to the questions I have over and over asked. I let the questions fly like severed kites while I take a walk and listen to the June bugs buzzing in the tall grass. A wise man takes night. A wise man takes night. A wise man takes night. A wise man takes night of the riches of the world to weigh down his pockets. He carries a message from the birds of the sky who claim ownership of nothing. It's the reason they can fly. So that's currently my favorite one to play, I think, because I need to hear it. Anybody else have?
I got a quick question.
Yes.
So you said that you're pressing out in vinyl.
Yeah.
Why vinyl?
Why vinyl? So CDs are hard to sell, actually. I mean, I have CDs too. I talked about streaming already. You know, it's hard. It's really just impossible to make money on like Spotify, unless you're just hugely famous. And even those people are suing Spotify because they want more money. So obviously they're not raking it in like we'd like to believe. Vinyl is, it's expensive, but it's cool. And young people, or people young, I don't know. I don't know about people younger than like my generation, but people in my generation have kind of embraced it. And so there's a market for it. Also, I just think it's awesome. And I like to do things that I think are awesome.
Do you think the sound quality is better?
I think that's debatable. I think it's different, and I like it more. I mean, I also like the fact that I can go. I think music discovery has changed a lot since music has become mostly digital. Like, I found a lot of cool music just by like going and sort of buying CDs at Hastings or wherever, you know, just like when you could do that still, you didn't necessarily know what you were getting, and that in some ways allows you to get stuff that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten, right? And I think the record store is the same way. You know, I go buy records at record stores kind of based on like covers sometimes, or just like, you know, song titles or things like that I would not necessarily be exposing myself intentionally to that music if I were to hear it first, honestly. So I think there's a place for that. I also think like cassette tapes have become pretty popular too, which is sort of hard to believe, but I've been thinking about this lately because cassette tapes there's no barrier for entry. You know, you can make a cassette tape of yourself at home. It costs you the cost of a cassette tape, you know, $2 or something. And like vinyl, you know, you have to pay. It's pretty expensive to get those made. The market value kind of makes up for that, so you can make your money back if you have, you know, back to this whole thing about limiting risk. You know, if you have the kind of the asset base, I guess, to be able to pay for vinyl pressing, you can make that money back by selling vinyls. But if you don't, it's really hard to get into it. You know, if you don't have. Yeah, there's a lot of people my age that have record players.
I know they're buying them now.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. The market is. So the choice that I have as someone who's trying to sell music is, like, I can sell to a small market. I can sell vinyls to people who want them. I have CDs, but few people want them, just honestly. I mean, some people do, but most people don't even have CD players anymore. I mean, probably more people have CD players still than record players. I don't know. But, I mean, it's like,
In the cars,
yeah, in the cars is really kind of where they're at now. And
sound quality of the vinyl that you just can't get anywhere else.
yeah, I think that's true. And another thing, like, there's all this cool stuff you can do with vinyl. Like this one we got pressed in like multiple colors, which, you know, maybe you could do this with a CD. I don't know, but I don't think so. Like, there's just like all this creative space, you know, to explore.
They can do that to a CD. Yeah, you can get CD.
You can?
colors.
Okay, yeah. See, that's not something that I've explored, but there's a sound quality. There's just the coolness factor of the fact that you can, even without amplification, you can put a needle through that and hear the sound. You know, Like that is just awesome. I just think that's super cool. And that, you know, if it's taken care of, that'll be around for a long time. You know, I still find music that I can't find digitally just because it wasn't popular enough in the 50s or 60s or 70s. And so it hasn't been, you know, it hasn't been put on YouTube where we could listen to it digitally. So I still find records that I can play at my house. I just think it's cool, you know. It might not be commercially, you know, maybe it's, I don't know. I don't know that it's the best thing, but I think it's cool, and I guess I like to live in a world where I decide. Yeah, it's a niche market, but it's a growing one. So, and I think it's cool, and I want to do cool things. So whether people buy it or not, I mean, I do care because I need to recoup my cost, but I try not to care that much, honestly. I try to just do the stuff that I want to do, and then if people...
Hope you can get away with that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's... if I can't, I'll go get a job. You know, I've had jobs before. It's okay.
We're gonna wrap it up. John,
Okay.
do you want to play one more song before we end?
Sure.
We'll wrap it up on
Yeah.
that note.
Yeah, that sounds good. I had a list. I had like a whole plan that I did not follow today. Let's see if there's anything on there. How about this one? Thank you guys all for coming. This has been fun for me. Okay. I sent a prayer on the back of a raven, addressed to the walls of the Leprechaun Canyon, in hopes that the Maker forgive the confusion of neural connections for the thoughts that flow through them. Oh my God, you found me, scrambling through the narrows of your mind. I'll send a prayer in the curl of a ram's horn. May we remember our wildness, the reason we came here. May we take on the power of Peter Market Overlook. May our hearts reflect something of this vastness and solitude. Oh my God, you found me, tapping out the ridge line. When my heart breaks, when my cup overflows, when I'm brought to tears, hanging off the side of a mountain or on the fountain green road, walking in a late summer sunset with my daughters. I'll be out in the backyard staring up at the funnel cloud. And if it swallows me up and spits me out in the stratosphere, if I fall, may I know I'm falling. And if I die, may I know I'm dying. To those I love, may they know I love them. But while I live, may I be absorbed in every moment. All right, so all those places that I was just complaining about, Spotify and Apple and all those, YouTube, I think it's just about everywhere. Bandcamp actually gives me money, so that would be my preference.
And you have a website?
Yeah, I've got a website, johndepewmusic.com. I don't know, I'm playing a lot, but I don't know that I'll be in Liberal playing anytime soon, but yeah.
If you want to pick up buy any of your stuff.
Yep, we've got stuff.
The website?
Yeah, the website or Bandcamp's got all that stuff on it. Yeah, being a musician is also about being a store.
Write all
A
your own
tr-
lyrics and music.
Yes, sir, yeah. Yep.
And you try to sell them to name performers.
I have not really tried to sell songs that way. But I should probably. There's certain ones, I mean, like a lot of this stuff is too weird for big time people to pick up, but
You got something that could go mainstream that'd make you a
it,
lot of money.
it could, yeah, it could.
One song could help you out a little bit.
That's true. I think I have a few that might be able to do that, but that's as competitive as anything else. But it's a good idea.
John, thank you so much for coming to
Yeah,
Liverpool.
yeah.
We're going to have you back again soon.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Phil.